Ooh, okay. First, I need to make sure if the audio is good. Good. All right, guys, what is up? I haven't been on for a long time now, but I want to start off with a live video and talk to you guys about my experience at Industrial Design School at Cal State Long Beach. So I attended Cal State Long Beach 2012. I transferred over there, going to a city college, Santa Barbara City College, and it was a good experience. I saved up a lot of money when I was going to City College, and I was gonna go to Art Center, but then I discovered that that was gonna be just way too much money. Yo, what's up, dude? First person, male best hug, breed K. What up, brother? All right, so I eventually found Cal State Long Beach, and I really wanted to go there for industrial design. That was going to be my major that I was going to take after car design. So car design was what I was originally going to do at Art Center. Okay, so that's where the story begins, 2012. I was 6 years younger, so I was only 22 years old. And I went off to Cal State Long Beach. I applied, got into a couple other schools, but this just so happened to be my favorite one. I did some research and I discovered that the other schools, they were just a little bit too far away. It was more in NorCal. They were pretty good schools. They were San Jose and San Francisco State. And San Francisco, what up, Savvy? Long time no see, brother. It was San Francisco State, and I decided not to go to those ones. And I heard some bad things about San Francisco too, so just didn't want to go to that one. And San Jose was just a little bit too far. So I went to Cal State Long Beach, and it turned out to be a very, very good decision because Cal State Long Beach is a very good school that is super cheap for industrial design. What I highly recommend if you guys are looking to get into industrial design school, don't go to an expensive one. Do not go to an expensive one just because you want to make sure your investment is going to be made back, right? So a lot of people think school is just this experience, something that you have to do, something that your parents are forcing you to do. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of money, and it's a decision that you got to make very thoroughly. And so you don't want to go to a school and have to pay a lot of money only to land like a $50,000 paying job. You know what I mean? Like you want to be very smart with this. So I highly recommend if your parents are well off, then go ahead and go to those expensive schools. But if you aren't, going to a budget school, it is perfectly fine. Push yourself. Try hard, and you will do just as well as anybody else that went to an expensive school. Okay, so I went to Cal State Long Beach. I think the tuition there was like $6,000 or something at the time, which is super cheap. I got a financial aid scholarship. I got some grants, and I obviously saved up money for Art Center, which I didn't go to. And so I had a lot of money saved up. So it was a good thing. I ended up graduating school only literally paying I think like $3,000 for tuition for my very last year, because I think senior year I ran out of financial aid. But that's perfectly fine with me. I mean, I just spent $3,000. The rest of the time was really just spending a lot of money on projects and on rent. So I had to move away from home, obviously, and find a place to live. And so I rented out apartments and people's rooms and stuff like that. So rent was a lot of money. And then, so very first year, you do not have to, or at least at the time, I didn't have to require a portfolio in order to get accepted into the school. All I had to do was apply, just like a regular student. And I think they just looked at my grades and they were like, yep, you're good, you're in, you know. So I had pretty good grades, so that wasn't very difficult. Oh, I got something on my teeth. Oh my goodness gracious. Why didn't you tell me? Oh my God. So I didn't have to submit a portfolio, but I think nowadays when people are applying to Cal State Long Beach, they do now require a portfolio. And I think most places required a portfolio. But when I was first going into design school, did not need one. But I have a whole video talking about like how to set up your design portfolio to get into school. So definitely go check that out. If I remember, I'll try to link it in the description. But I got into school, okay. And then I moved out here to Cal State Long Beach. And I remember that I went to some orientation and they literally told me that I had about 5 years left to graduate. That's how long the program takes. 5 years. Now it's down to 4 years, so that's normal. But at the time, I had to do 5 years. I already did 4 years at my community college, and now I had to do another 5 years, and there was no getting around this because all the classes were built on top of each other. So like very first year, I was taking AutoCAD class, I was taking a SolidWorks class, and then an entry-level drawing class, entry-level shop class. And so you have to start off at the bottom, you know, because if you've never, you know, like taken these advanced classes before or beginner advanced classes, like you just got to kind of build your way up through the curriculum. And so they build you up slowly. So you take, so my very first year, they pretty much enter you into a couple of core classes. I'm only going to talk about the design related ones because you're going to be, obviously you're going to have to take like your GE classes. But for this one, I had to take an entry-level drawing class. So this was 132A, and this pretty much just introduced us to perspective. So pretty much, you know, boring grid perspective, 2-point or 1-point, you know, making sure you draw every line perfectly. You have your T-square, you have your right triangles, you have all your mechanical tools, you know what I'm talking about. So you had to buy a lot of that stuff, and you know that stuff isn't cheap. And students at the time, for some reason they think that if they spend more money on their stuff, you know, on equipment, on pencils, on paper, on all this stuff, that they're going to be a better designer, which is not the case. I'm telling you now, so don't just splurge and buy all these nice things, because after school or after that class, you're not going to use that stuff again. So just try your best not to spend too much money on this equipment that you're eventually going to have to buy. Because the real talent is on the skill. It's not on the equipment. It's on the skill 100%, guys. Or else, you know, the best designer in the class is going to be the one with the most money, right? Which obviously we all know that isn't true. So I had to take that entry-level sketching class. And then after that, they also make us do an AutoCAD class. So this AutoCAD class is not really AutoCAD. I mean, AutoCAD is the program that we use, but essentially what they're trying to get across is to teach you what views are, to show you how to read in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, how to do like, you know, oblique drawings, how to do like oblique angles, how to do like isometric views and orthographic views. All this stuff is very, very important to industrial designers, which not a lot of people teach when they're talking about industrial design on YouTube. And so this is really teaching you like how to read line drawings and how to draw line drawings and just very, very fundamental basic stuff. So most likely you guys have taken a lot of stuff like this, like in City College or something like that. So you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just very, very fundamental stuff, not really necessarily having to do with design, but just like fundamental type stuff. Okay. And then they make us start a SolidWorks class. So that means they introduce us to the program. Very, very, you know, simple stuff right at first. This class was also doubles as showing you KeyShot, because KeyShot is a fairly simple program to get you started. It takes a while to actually get professional and proficient and, you know, make sure that you're organized with everything. But in general, it's very easy to start with KeyShot. So that class teaches you SolidWorks and KeyShot. So any of you guys who are really, really interested in attending Cal State Long Beach for design, this video is for you guys for sure. I would just watch this video the whole way. But if you guys are just, you know, thinking about what school or wondering how design school is like, you know, I'm going to tell you my experience, all right? So this class, the SolidWorks class, is probably one of the most important classes that I took at Cal State Long Beach. It's because they make you do SolidWorks in the real world. They expect you to know how to use SolidWorks, and people really like when you can use SolidWorks really well. And so this is the class where you should try really, really hard to learn SolidWorks, get better at rendering, because renderings are going to be something that you do throughout your entire career, man. So get good at rendering, get good at SolidWorks, and what other class? Okay, and then also an entry-level shop class. So this is just like teaching you how to use the tools, teaching you how to be safe, teaching you how to use hand tools and power tools, opening you up to a certain materials that you might not have used before, kind of like certain types of woods and wood joinery and the tools that you use to work with wood. And then they open it up to, I think, like foam. I remember working on a foam project where they taught you how to like glue dense foam together and then sand it into a certain shape. And so this is teaching you how to shape stuff, because later on, you're going to be doing that, creating designs that you design yourself, certain products. And so this is very entry level. Everybody takes this. So general design designers take this, industrial designers take this, and interior designers take this. So these three groups are the ones that are all together in the design department at Cal State Long Beach. General design, which is usually BA, ID, which is industrial design, and IA is interior architecture. So BA is very general design. This is your generic design degree. It's the one that you go to school, take a bunch of design and art and crafts classes, and then you graduate with a degree. That's what BA is. And you could go off and do a lot of good things with BA, but usually this one is if you either what I found students to do is if they just didn't have the money, because taking these two other ones is a little bit more time. So BA is definitely the shortest route. It's the cheapest route because I think that the professors don't require too much when you're taking the classes, like buying stuff and expecting too much of you. And then if you plan on going off and perhaps getting a master's degree in architecture or something like that, that's what I see a lot of people taking BA. And other people, they take BA not by choice, but because the other two routes they couldn't make it through the other two routes, which I'm going to tell you now. So the other two is IA. So IA is interior design. If you guys are interested, sorry about that. If you guys are interested in interior design, that is what my girlfriend Claudia is doing. So she graduated in interior design the same year as I did. And that's pretty much designing the interior of buildings. So not the architect, but like the interior designer. And it's different than a decorator. It's more like structural and elements and creating a lot of renderings and stuff like that, which decorators do not do. And then there is ID, obviously, the one that we all know. And so ID is essentially how it differs from BA is that the first 2 to 3 years is pretty much the same. You guys are going to take all this classes that I kind of told you about, entry-level drawing classes, entry-level shop classes, entry-level SolidWorks and program kind of classes. And then after the third year is when it all kind of changes. So after the third year, BAs just continue going on their BA route. For ideas, this is my experience. So I know that it's changed just a little. It changed from 5 years to 4 years. And so I think most people are going through portfolio review after their second year. But for me, it was my third year. And essentially, you have to go through portfolio review. So portfolio review is essentially the work that you've done those past 3 years. You accumulate it all together, and you make sure it looks really, really good. And then you submit it along with all your other classmates. And then I think the head professors, there's about 5 or 6 of them. They go into the room, they check out all your stuff, they look at all your models and all your drawings and all your stuff, and they make sure to see if you not are good enough, but you have the potential to, if they can see that you have the potential to make it through studio. And that's pretty much what you graduate into if you pass portfolio review, is you get into studio. And studio is essentially going to teach you specific industrial design techniques and projects and just stuff like that. And so that's what you get after you pass portfolio review on your second year now. But for your second year, I remember just literally taking the same classes, but a little more advanced. So in my second year, the drawing classes got a little more loose. So instead of having the T-square and the triangle, it became more like, instead of using those tools, you literally just drew them, and you try to draw them a little bit quicker because you're not gridding everything out. So they're getting you to move into more of a rapid viz, which is in your third year. And that's essentially just sketching how you would think a sketcher would sketch, you know, just boom, 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 boom. But now you're doing it with the proper techniques, like using perspective, and you know how lighting works. So when you start marker rendering or you start photoshopping, that you know and understand how lighting works. So they're trying to essentially build you up through that, starting from very, very structured perspective onto less perspective, onto no perspective, but just the rules of perspective, if you guys kind of understand that. And so if you watch like people like Sangwon on YouTube, you can see when he's drawing like that initial structure of a car, you could see that he's laying down perspective lines. Like these are very simplified perspective lines, but they are perspective lines. And it's kind of like creating the structure of everything for you to add and build the details around. So learning how to draw in perspective is extremely, 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 extremely 100% important. But then again, you know, sketching is not that important because you don't end up doing it too much when you're a professional unless you incorporate it into your own personal process. So I do a lot of sketching, but it's just because that's how I work. I can see another person not needing to sketch because they tend to maybe just jump right into SolidWorks or something like that. But I like to do a lot of, I mean, I could jump right into SolidWorks, but I just like to sketch just because I think it's fun. And I think it allows me to get my thoughts across even better than if I were to just jump directly into SolidWorks. But I do that when time is short and I got to get the project done quickly. So that's professionalism, guys, is you got to change things around to get the job done. And so in my second year is when you also take, so you take 150, and essentially 150, wait, is it 150? I forgot, but it's the class after the general shop class. And this is a really, really fun class. Okay. So this is the class where they essentially teach you how to shape foam and then paint it. So this was what I was super, super excited. I remember just seeing the projects when I was walking down the hallways of just like students creating models of products that looked real. I was like, dude, that looks real. Like I could buy that out of a store. And so that's essentially what they taught us how to make. And so how you essentially start the thing is you start off with high density foam. So it's kind of like the foam that comes with like stuff that you buy electronics, but it's a lot denser. So it's a lot denser, and it's a lot like, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a brick or like, it's very, very difficult to describe, but I wish I can show you guys. And it comes in a variety of different weights. So you could buy a 10-pound one, which would be very porous. So if you went like this, it would like a bunch of dust would come off. And then it could get heavier and heavier. So 20-pound was my preferred one because 20-pound allowed you to shape it easily enough, but also keep the detail. Because with 10-pound foam, you lose the detail quickly because you're holding the product and you're just rubbing the corners away. Whereas if it's a little bit heavier, it's harder to sand, but it'll keep the crispiness of your creases and your lines. And so I like 20-pound, but it goes all the way up to like 80-pound or 100-pound, and that's literally like a brick. Like you have the density of a brick. Okay, so going back to school, so essentially they teach you how to shape it and primer it and then sand that, and they teach you obviously like sandpaper. They teach you all these tools that you need to buy. I think I spent like, some students, they literally spend like $1,000 on that project. In that class, like no joke, just with everything that you have to buy. And then they start you off with a very simple project. So first you might start off with like like doing a speed form, or maybe a computer mouse, or maybe I think my class, we did a electric shaver, so like a Norelco shaver. And then that's the easy project, and they only give you like 2 months to do that. And then the rest of the time you are working on your final one. So there's really only just 2 projects in that class, but throughout the time they're teaching you a lot of different tools and techniques and stuff like that. And so the second project is the larger project. This is the one where they assume that you're now proficient sanding and you know how to paint now, and you know, you're using the real automotive techniques, how they paint cars, in order to paint your products, which make your products really, really, really sexy. But you paint it and then you clear coat it and then you buff it, and it literally looks like a real product. I think I have some here. I'll show you guys. Okay, I found it. I found it. So I keep my projects in these bins. So, okay, this is the razor. Don't laugh, because you're gonna see something inappropriate. All right. So essentially, this is pretty much what they teach you. Is this is made out of foam, and then I shaped it. So you just get like a block of sandpaper, and you literally just shape the foam, and you're like eyeballing it, and you're shaping it, kind of like when you see those designers designing cars, and they're scraping away the clay, and they look so cool. That's essentially what you're doing, but with foam and sandpaper. So you're literally just doing that, and then once everything looks pretty close to you and it looking pretty good, and then you start to primer it. So then you primer it, which is essentially kind of like paint, but it's very thick. And essentially what that does is it creates an eggshell around the foam, and it kind of like locks in the foam and makes it kind of like a hard thing so that it's not so porous, you know what I'm saying? And then what you do is you start sanding the paint, and the paint is very thick. So you can sand it and it won't rub off. And essentially, if you sand it enough, like using high grit sandpaper, it will give you a very smooth surface for you to eventually paint on. So then that's what you see here. This is automotive paint, and exactly the same paint as you would paint a car. And this type of paint, dude, it looks way better than any spray can paint I've used. So I've used the spray can technique many times when I'm lazy, and it never ends up looking as good as a gun, like a paint out of a gun, because I don't know what it is. It just looks more higher quality. There's more depth to it. And just out of the can, it just looks a little bit cheaper. But out of a can is so much easier. Like I could do that at home in my backyard. Whereas this, you need a compressor, and then you need to buy the gun, and then you need to buy the paint, and then you mix it all together, and you have acetone, and it's a big ordeal. So it's a mess, but it gives you a very nice paint job. So, and then I finished it off with a kind of a satin type of finish. So you guys can see it's shiny, but it's not too glossy. You see that? So the idea is this is supposed to be like a touch screen, and then this is supposed to be like the dual, you shave your beard, and I wanted to design it like a phone. So this was like my second or my very first year project. So the second project was a, what do you call it? A kitchen appliance. So I wanted to do kind of like one of those electric knives, like a turkey cutter, one of those things, but instead of just using it in and cutting turkeys and using it in the kitchen, I wanted to make it kind of like a power tool in a way, so that you could also use it to cut foam or to cut other things other than just turkey. So here's what it is. This is actually not all foam. So this is foam. This black part is foam. This is foam. This part here, though, is acrylic. So it's very difficult to be able to create details like this in foam. For foam, you just want to create stuff like, you know, general giant parts. But stuff like this, like these certain details, that's very difficult to get into foam. So how I did this was this is a very thin layer of plastic. We call it acrylic. And it's kind of like a thin piece of plastic. And there's a machine called the laser cutter. And essentially it just like, it's kind of like a CNC machine where it like, you know, moves back and forth and left and right and X axis and Z axis and whatever. And there's a laser attached to it, and it shoots the laser into your piece of plastic, cutting out certain areas that you have drawn in maybe AutoCAD or SolidWorks or just a DXF drawing. And it cuts out exactly what you want. So I essentially drew a honeycomb pattern, and it cut that all out for me. And I slapped it on this, the, what do you call it? The foam, and I bondoed it in to make it look nice and flush and curvy. And then I added in back all of the acrylic cutout hexagon thingy-majabbers. So this is an electric knife, and this is the knife portion. So I bought an electric knife, and I yoinked out the mechanism, and I jammed it up into my design. So that's what you guys see there. So that's the fastener part. And then that's what this inserts into. So what I liked about this the most is the satisfying click. Do you guys catch that? Boom. Okay. So this is the button that you release it. So all you do is push the button and it pops out. Booyah. So that's pretty cool. So this is pretty much what you make in that class. And you could design whatever you want. Other people did like coffee makers. And my buddy at the time who I lived with, he made like this, what do you call that thing that like, it's kind of like a blender, but it's not? Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. What do you guys, help me out. It's like a food processor, that's what it is. So his was really cool. It was cool because me and my buddy that I lived with at the time, we both were the only ones that got A's in the class. So it goes to show our products. But now I just look at this and I'm like, oh man, I could do so much better. But this is the stuff that they teach you in your second year. And then this class is super fun, guys. Okay, so then after this year, so first it's the general shop class, and then after that they're teaching you how to make models like an industrial designer, and then after that they teach you how to create prototypes. So the difference between prototypes is that prototypes have this idea of function to them where you're trying to prove something like a mechanical function. And so then these models, they're only made to be visual, meaning this is what it possibly can look like. It doesn't work at all, but it's what it could look like. But these prototypes are essentially supposed to be what it's going to be and how it's going to work. So so in this class, they essentially teach you, this is when you're using your SolidWorks skills now. So for your third year, you are pretty proficient at SolidWorks. And now they're going to teach you how to use that SolidWorks. And instead of creating renderings, which is what they generally have you do with your SolidWorks files, instead of creating renderings, you're also going to create 3D prints. So that's how you learn all about 3D printing and all the different things that requires 3D printing, like STL file, like making sure your model isn't just surfaces, it's an actual solid, making sure how to, create different bodies and how to send it to the actual people, and then how to get it estimated and how much you need to pay and all that stuff. So this is really, really beneficial stuff that they teach you in this third shop class. So I told you guys about the drawing one. I told you guys about the shop one. And so for that class, okay, I'll show you guys what I actually made in that class. Sorry guys, I'm like totally missing the chat because I remember my first time live streaming, I literally spent like 50% of the time just reading the chat, which probably shouldn't do. So let me show you guys this. So this was a project I made for fun on the side. It's essentially like, you guys know that GoPro head strap? I designed this crane part. I drew it in SolidWorks, 3D printed it at Shapeways, and then I bought this like clip, and then I attached it to my 3D printed part. So this is what 3D print looks like. It's generally white, and this one is considered, I believe, SLA printing. So you hear 3D printing thrown all the way around, you know, all the time. But there's different types of 3D printings, 3D print technologies, and they give you different results generally. And so SLA is generally very good. It's decently priced, and it gives you a fairly detailed printout. Generally, a lot of designers like to use SLA as well. Or wait, no, sorry. FDM. And FDM is essentially using like plastic filament. It's like this long plastic string in a way, and then it's fed into a melter, melts it, and it goes into like kind of like a glue gun, and then it moves like the laser cutter I told you guys about, and essentially creates these layers on top of each other, and it builds what you want. And so SLA, which is this one, works a little bit differently, and it doesn't give you all of those layers like what you generally would see in FDM printing. Anyways, I essentially connected that to the GoPro head strap, and you could like connect your phone to here, and you could just like watch stuff hands-free. That's essentially what this thing was. Okay, but that's not what I made in that class. This is what I made. It's broken. I had it out on display at school, and somebody, I guess, was playing with it and broke it. How dare they? How dare they? Ooh, I haven't took this out in a while. So essentially, it is a model car. So I SolidWorks this up and 3D printed it. So this is all 3D print pretty much. This here is laser cut. So same way as I did those hexagons, you guys can see it's that like flat plastic. But now I had it cut out a rim shape. I bought these wheels from a toy, and I just like reused them because I didn't want to print those. Those were easy to get. But essentially what you guys can see from the bottom here. So this chassis is essentially laser cut. And this was there was probably a better way to do this, but this is the way I did it. But it's essentially all laser cut, and then you can see all the mechanical motions. Like I have suspension right here. You guys can see how the wheels go up on both sides. You guys can see the spring. And then I have the headlights go on and off. But I literally forgot how. I think it's broken, which kind of sucks. I also had a winch up here. You guys can see that. So I had a little hook, and I bought one of those like lanyard things, you know, one of these things. So I bought one of those things, and then I just glued it in the body, and then I tied the other end to a hook that I 3D printed. And so I was able to pull this out, and then it would just fling back in. But I guess the hook broke off, and so the thing is all the way in there now, which sucks. And then this was a momentum engine that I took from a toy. So you guys can see if you push it forward, it just keeps on rolling. And so that's pretty much it. If you move this rear wheel, the spare wheel here, it was supposed to move these two, just like that. But the mechanism inside is broken. So that's pretty much what that person broke. And then the headlights and the taillights would go on, but it doesn't seem to be working anymore, which kind of sucks. But anyways, essentially the body is 3D printed, and then I painted it with can paint. So you guys can see it's like a very flat paint. And then I used like mud paint techniques to create that fake mud. These are nails that I use to pretend to make it look like rivets. All this stuff is just craft stuff. And this is 3D printed. This is a PC, or this is a little board here that I got from somewhere, I forgot where, and it has all these LEDs on it. And did all the wiring so these LEDs would turn on, and so would the tail lights. So this is essentially a mechanical engineering / industrial design project where you're tinkering with electronics, mechanics, and general model craft making. So this is all 3 in 1. So you guys normally would see people making car models, but they're not from scratch. You know, this is from SolidWorks to 3D printing to printing to painting to engineering, how all of this works. So this is a super, super fun project, and this is something that you guys are definitely going to really enjoy if you attend Cal State Long Beach. So let's see, I also got, okay, so let me tell you guys. So that's pretty much what you do your first 3 years at Cal State Long Beach is very fundamental stuff. So at the end of the 3rd year, 2nd year now, because they shortened the program. So 2nd year now, pretty much you have learned the fundamentals. You've learned how to use SolidWorks. You've learned how to draw. You learned how to model make. You don't know how to do these 3 things very well. You don't. But you know how to do them, and you're decently confident with them. And then you show your work. Your professors will critique you. Everybody's stressed out. Everybody's crying. Everybody's sleep deprived. And everybody's waiting around to see if they pass portfolio review or not. And when it finally comes around, they pin it up on the wall. You read all the names, and you see all your friends that made it and didn't make it, which is very, very sad. Everybody's, you know, either very happy or very sad that people didn't get through. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. This world is competitive, and it's just a better thing to know that you didn't make it or you did make it, because you don't want to, you know, be heading into a direction where you're just not that good. Maybe you want to do something else and that you are actually very, very good at, because maybe that's your calling in life. But for design, this is something that generally professors will do, is they will curate maybe shows. So for my very last senior show, this is the show where, you know, you show what you got, all your friends and families come, and this is what you've been working on and all your hard work. And if you just don't seem good enough to the professors, they're not going to allow you to show in the show. So that was a pretty hard thing to a lot of my classmates, when I knew a lot of them really wanted to show, but they just couldn't make it. So, you know, that's something to definitely expect when you go into design school, is a little bit of stress, a little bit of heartache. If you know that you're just, you know, not quite the top person, expect that to happen, but don't let it kind of like crush you, you know, because a lot of the time, like there's things in school where they kind of build up, but in the real world, none of that stuff even matters that much. Like a person that really likes research, that's not really celebrated too much in design school. Design school, they kind of want to see, you know, other things. And so just kind of get through the program. And I don't know why I'm going through this, but I just want to tell you guys. So I just want to tell you guys essentially the college experience. Okay, so then once you pass portfolio review, you are now in studio. And in studio, you are taking 2 main classes. Other classes that you need to take, but just for industrial design, is 2 main classes. This is methodology and this is studio. So methodology is the class that essentially teaches you how to work in groups. It teaches you ways to come up with ideas. It's very philosophical. It's very unconventional to what you would think an industrial designer would do. We had to create the projects that we did in this class were every single one of them was a group project. So it taught you how to work in groups and how to become a leader or become a follower. Either one is perfectly fine. You should be a good follower and you should be a good leader. And a video was usually always required, or other types of mediums. So generally, we all know that, you know, we're going to be giving sketches, we're going to be giving models, we're going to be giving presentations, right? But we don't usually expect to create a video sometimes. We don't expect to create a website sometimes. And so these are the kind of stuff that they're going to start expecting of you. They're going to start expecting a process book. Oh my God. Okay, let me tell you guys about process books. Process books are like the 25-page essays of normal student school. You know how when like school they make you write all these essays and stuff like that? That's essentially what process books are like for designers. So it's pretty much just a book that documents your whole process of this project. From where you started to where you left off, and you gotta, you know, write a lot. You gotta put this book together, and I don't even know why they call it a book, because it really kind of like messed me up in a way, because I hate books. I hate reading. I've always been kind of dyslexic. You know, English is my second language, so it just never was fun for me. But then I discovered that these aren't process books. These are just kind of presentations of the project that you've been working on. Very nice presentations. So essentially, if you guys have seen Behance pages, you guys look at Behance and you guys look at people's projects and their portfolios, and within their portfolios, they have their individual projects. So you're flipping through it and you see a hero shot, maybe you see a title, you keep going, you scroll, you see their, what do you call it? You see all their research and all their inspiration and all their market stuff and all their, you know, target market. You see all this stuff, right? You see all the renderings and all the sketches. That's essentially what they mean when they say process book. Don't call it a process book though. I hate it when they called it a process book. But when I started thinking of this process book as like Behance presentations, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a Behance presentation. So I had to make a process book for my very last senior project. So essentially I posted it on Behance and I made it exactly like a Behance page. So that was cool. So if you guys are gonna attend Cal State Long Beach, don't make it like a book where you have to write a lot, you know, like just don't make it like a book. Just make it like a normal industrial design presentation and you are going to be fine. I wish I thought about that. I wish I knew about that earlier on, because I would be more willing and happy to create these process books. But that's essentially what like your professor grades you on, because it's hard to just look at a couple sketches. It's hard to just look at a model and then grade you. They want to see your thought process. They want to see what kind of research you did. They want to see what you looked at, the different things that you tested, that you mocked up. They want to see that all together in one kind of, you know, cohesive book, all together in one. And so they make you, that's why they make you, that's why they make you create these things. Okay, so then you take those two classes. So let me tell you guys about them. So methodology is that, and methodology, I remember the very first project, it was super weird. They essentially like told us they gave us like, I think, pipe cleaners and rubber bands and paper plates and clips and random junk. And they told us, create something with it, come up with a methodology, create a video, show how you guys work together. And so we came up with the super badass video. I was so into video at the time, and that just made me even more so into video. And it was good. The projects didn't really teach me too much, but I was very inspired and very, very happy to do the video aspect of these projects. And it got me so much into video at the time. And this is when I was really considering not becoming an industrial designer and actually going into videography, because I was like, dude, this is so much easier than industrial design. Industrial design is so hard. We have to do so many things. We have to learn how to sketch, you know, draw, psychology, figure out what's the best solutions, how to SolidWorks. We need to know how to 3D. We need to know engineering. We need to know art. We need to know graphics and color theory and manufacturing processes. Pricing, and, you know, just making sure that what you're designing is going to like, there's just so many aspects of industrial design, it's crazy compared to something like videography, where you're just either editing or shooting, or editing, shooting. Industrial design, I was like, dude, why is industrial design so hard? Video seems so easy, but I love industrial design and I love videos, so I try to merge them together. Pretty much what you guys see here, video and design. All right, so let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, so that's pretty much methodology. It's a very interesting class. You will have a lot of fun times, and it's very unconventional, but I think it's also very valuable at the same time. So studio is the other class that you have to take in studio. For some reason, they call this class studio, and the whole thing is called studio. But this class, studio, is essentially what you would think an industrial design class should be. So essentially, they're going to assign you a project, and you are going to think about what you want to design, think about how you're going to get to the solution, and then document it all, and then create a model, create a website, create this stuff, create that stuff, and then you present it. And that's essentially what you would think an industrial design school class project would be. So one of those projects, they made us do, it was like ergonomic based. So we had to see somebody kind of performing a task that was very difficult, and then we would have to design a product that would improve upon the product that they're using. Or if it wasn't a product, you just design a product to help their situation more ergonomically. And so what I noticed was, at that time, I was really, really into RC cars, and I worked on them on my desk. And so I had this little drill that I used a lot to unscrew and screw the screws. And so I always found myself doing this thing, because drills are kind of like a gun shape. So you're always like have this elbow high type of thing. So since I'm on my desk, I'm doing something like this, and I'm drilling. And so I was like, what if instead of like having to lift my elbow so high, I was like, what if I can just do something like this, like just elbow down and drill. So that's what, where did that model go? I have another model to show you guys, if I can find it. Where did I put it? It was literally just here. Oh. All right, in the meantime, there's also another model I want to show you guys. So in my drawing class, in one of those drawing classes, they made us do a quick 3D model. It didn't have to be really detailed, and you had the choice of either making out of like craft stuff. You can make it out of whatever you want. So I decided to make it out of wire. So I made a shoe out of wire. So this is one of my Allen Edmonds shoes, and I made it out of wire. So this is like copper wire, and that is how I did the joint. How did I join them together? So when you do something like this, no matter how hard you pinch, it's not going to ever stay just there. It's going to slide on this rail. So I add a little tiny dab of super glue, and that's what allows these wires to stay where they are. So then I made that one, and then I wanted to go a little bit more detailed on the other one. So I just added a little bit more lines to this, but my professor really, really liked the simple one. He thought this one looked a little too heavy, but I think this looks a little cooler, I guess. This is just more of the essence of the shoe, very simple. Man, can't find my freaking drill that I was gonna show you guys. I can't believe it. It literally was here. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Found it. Found it. Boom! Okay. So fake carbon fiber on there. It doesn't work anymore. But essentially, there was a motor in here. And when you'd go like this, it would it would go one direction. If you push it this way, it'd go the other direction. And also in the center, it would lock. So I bought the mechanism, the switch, from another drill. I took the mechanism out, and then I built this enclosure to it. And then this is like a separate battery pack that I had to wire a little bit to make this curve. And I think the bottom comes out, and you could actually see the battery. Yeah, you pop this out. I'm scared. Scared I might break it. Put this back. But the idea was that when I was working on my RC cars, I wouldn't have to do this thing, you know, where the trigger is here, and then you do this thing. The idea was you would hold it like this, kind of like that. So then when I was drilling stuff, I would literally just drill it like this, you know, like zzz, 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 without ever actually having to lift up my elbow. So that was my project. I remember I didn't try that hard. I probably tried like 60% on the project. There was a lot of projects where you don't try that hard, and then ones that you try really, really hard on. And so this one, it was kind of just like, you know, I didn't try that hard. A lot of it has to do with the professor too. Like, if you know, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Like, you know, like sometimes you just kind of get caught up. Like if you find a job outside of school and you are interning somewhere and that's taken up a lot of your time, sometimes people start prioritizing their work and their internships over school, and the professors actually allow that sometimes. If you say like, hey, you know, they're telling me to do this and do that, professors are very open to allowing you to achieve and take on those opportunities, which is super, super cool. Because in my fourth year, so I was a junior, me and 4 other friends were able to get on a TV show designing golf drivers. So me and my buddy Patrick, Brian, Shayla, and Matt got onto NBC's Golf Channel, and the show was called Driver versus Driver. And this pretty much was about a year of shooting. And they essentially flew us out to Chicago. We shot, we designed our golf driver. We didn't know anything about golf. We didn't know, we were so bad at presenting. We were nervous. We were young. We were like the youngest people on that show, or one of the youngest people. Everybody else were professionals. Everybody else was like pro golfers and stuff like that. So it was a really, really cool experience. And we competed for $500,000, which we really wanted to win, but we got 3rd place. But, you know, it was super, super cool just being and experiencing something like that. So that was in our junior year, but the professors, they were okay with us flying out there and shooting for like a week straight, and then coming back and then turning in our homeworks a little late. That was just super awesome. So, you know, big things can happen like that, even if you go to a school as small as Cal State Long Beach, which, you know, is an awesome school, and you're going to learn a lot, and you don't have to get in super debt. And then, okay, so then the very last year, so 2 years in studio. The very first year is called junior studio, and the second one is senior studio. So senior studio is fall and spring. Obviously, everything is fall and spring. So in fall, the projects were a Kickstarter project and a competition. So these projects that you will start doing in your later, like very, very senior year, these are only probably going to be like your final thesis, or it's going to be a competition, or it's going to be for a specific reason like Kickstarter or something like that. There's not going to be these kind of up in the air student projects anymore. It's going to be real projects, or it's going to be your final thesis. So my final thesis was my microphone, and I'll show you guys. Let me look for it real quick. I'll be back. All right, I found it. I found it. Another bin, keeping it nice and organized. Watch out. All right. So this is my microphone. When I told you guys I was really into videography, I was still really, really into videography. I shot my status 3-in-1 video, this puppy right here. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I'll try to link it, or just look up status, STATIS, 3-in-1. And it was a Kickstarter video that I made, but I never actually proceeded to do the Kickstarter. I just made the video and that was it. But it was a pretty cool video and I was very, very excited about it. But essentially the idea was this is a 3-in-1 stand, little tripod type of thing. Or it could be, has magnets right there. So it just magnetizes together. And then, or it could be a selfie stick. So just like that. So I have the plate. This is the plate. And you just magnetize it to this. And there is the quarter screw mount that you would put your camera on. Or you could use this puppy here for your GoPro. Just screw it onto there. And essentially it acts as a kind of selfie stick type thing, even though like selfie sticks were so popular in 2016 and now nobody uses a selfie stick anymore. And then the reason why this thing comes off is because you see these bearings, they broke, 2 of them broke off already, or they fell off. But essentially it was 4 bearings and it would slide into here and there were rails here. If you guys look closely, it's hard to show you guys. There's like these rails that run right here. The other side doesn't have them, but this side does, just right in there. And essentially these are V-groove bearings. Or I guess they're pulleys. I've been calling them bearings, but they're really pulleys. So the V-groove pulleys. And so you would close it and slide it, and it's supposed to slide onto the rail and essentially acts as a very short, portable slider. So you would just like, I've been using my shaver as a phone, but essentially you would mount your phone and then you would just use it as a slider like that. So that was my Kickstarter project. And then my senior project was a microphone, what is the word? Family of products, kind of like the GoPro thing where you have the GoPro and then you have like a bunch of accessories. So the idea was you had a 2-in-1 microphone. Where is it? Oh, I think it's inside. So essentially you start off with a 2-in-1 microphone. So scary. Okay, so this is supposed to be like the microphone, and this is pretty much all you need. So the idea was that the top part was like a shotgun mic, like what you would mount on your camera. Like if you guys watch Casey Neistat or anything like that, where his microphone is mounted on the SLR, that's pretty much what the idea is. But usually with those is that you only talk through the front top. And this is what is called, what do you call it? A shotgun mic. But the ones that you use, like for situations like these, where I'm talking to you guys in a live stream, you would use more of a desktop type of microphone. And so that's what this front one was for. So you would talk on the front one with that, or you would mount it on your camera and use the top one. And you could use either one. You know, you just use the button, switch through them or whatever. So this is 3D printed. I just 3D printed it and painted it with can paint. So this paint actually doesn't look that nice compared to the other ones, but since it's just black, it's, you know, no big deal. So that was the microphone, you know, no big deal. Just looks like a plain cylindrical microphone. But the money maker is the attachments. So let's see, the first thing I have here is, booyah, the mount. You guys see that? The mount. So the mount, and this blue part here is supposed to be like rubber. and it's supposed to be the shock absorber. And this bottom part here is the cold shoe. So that's essentially what you would mount the this onto the camera. And then you would stick the microphone into there. Boom, just like that. So you just use it like this on your camera. But obviously we know you can't just use it like this onto your camera, right? You got to connect it. That's what these 3 connectors are for. So this is an XLR connector. If you guys don't know anything about audio, essentially it just makes your audio a little better. There's a better type of connection when it comes to the XLR versus something like a 3.5 millimeter jack. And you just get a little bit better quality. And so, but let's say you didn't want to use this XLR connector, right? Let's say you wanted to use something else. That's what this puppy was for. So this puppy is called the hub. And so the hub allows you to expand your output into multiple devices. So what you would do is you would insert the hub. You would insert the hub, boop, just like that, into the connector. Or if you didn't want the hub, you would just use something like this, which is very, very normal, standard. Plug it into there. Come on. You plug it in there, right? And then you would plug this into your camera. So that's how normally it works. But let's say you didn't want to use this. Let's say you wanted to be portable. Let's say you didn't have anything to plug it into. Well, that's what you would use this puppy for, because this puppy allows you to input into an SD card. Heck yeah. So all you do is you insert it into there and you can start recording. And it'll record right into the SD card. If you didn't want to, you could use a 3.5 millimeter. You could insert your headphones. There is another XLR that you could use. Or there is a USB Type-C output. So, so you could technically use this for your computer. So that's essentially what I'm using, is a USB microphone. So you would just mount it onto like a tripod. So mount it onto something like this. And then you would just use it like this. Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? My name is Jimmy and today I'm gonna show you guys how to design. So it's something like that, and you would just like use it on your desktop. But obviously this looks weird. We don't want to be doing something like this. So that is what this is for. So this is the coolest part of this whole microphone. So the idea is that you guys know when you're like have audio, anything about audio, people put like those foam pads on the wall, like audio studios and stuff like that. Well, the idea is that foam is supposed to dampen sound, and so it keeps everything more contained and quiet and isolated. And so my idea was, what if you put that foam in a enclosure, in a plastic enclosure, kind of like this. So you see it's a plastic enclosure filled with foam here, and an opening for the front mic, and then an opening for the top mic. So all you do is you insert it on, boom, and there you go. There it's all together. So then now you could talk. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jimmy. Blah, 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 blah. Or you can mount it on your camera. And since this microphone is being protected by the foam, it hopefully, I have tested it, where I used my normal USB mic and I wrapped it with foam, and then I recorded myself, and then I didn't use it and I recorded myself. And it turned out that the foam was, I would say, maybe about like 10% better. So it's not that much, but it's better than nothing. And so essentially that's how that works. Boom. And if you guys know anything about recording voiceovers and stuff like that, usually what people do is they put on a pop filter. So a pop filter is when you say your P's and your T's. You know how you notice a lot of air comes out when you say P's? P's? That creates like a spike in the microphone audio, and it's just really, really bad. Kind of like if you were to record something on a windy day, you hear the wind, it's all, it's like killing your audio, you know? So they don't want to do that. So what you want to do is you put on a pop filter to prevent and slow down that air burst. Oh no, where'd my pop filter go? All right, I don't have the pop filter, but essentially I had this filter that magnetizes, or it's supposed to magnetize to this rim. And it was just a rim thing with some mesh that covered it here. And the idea was that when you talk into it, when you say your P's and your T's, it wouldn't spike your audio. And I thought this was a great idea because every time you look at pop filters on anywhere on Amazon, it's this weird gooseneck thing that comes up, and it just looks very stuck on and awkward and an afterthought. Whereas this one, it just, you know, I really wanted to make professional audio simplified. And that's what this product was. And that was my final thesis. And I was able to get into the show and show my project during senior year, which was great. I was definitely expecting to get in, so I would have been heartbroken. Oh, I found it. I would have been heartbroken if I didn't make it in. Okay, there it is. So it doesn't magnetize because I wasn't able to figure out or find any type of magnet strip that was thin enough to put on this edge. But the idea was that if this thing was magnet and this thing was magnetized, that it would just snap on, pop. It would just snap on and become your pop filter. So when you talk, this mesh here is supposed to block all of that wind from the P's and the T's. Oh, I'm tired, guys. All right, that is about it. I'm glad to be back. It's really, really good to see you guys again. I've just been on vacation, guys, like for real. I moved into this new place and I've just been chilling and hanging out. Claudia has started a YouTube channel and it's all about makeup. So I've been like helping her do that. It's going to be, I feel like it's going to be bigger than my industrial design YouTube channel, just because industrial design, it's so like niche. It's so like, I can't seem to get out there as much as I want to. So I was a little bit kind of frustrated in a way, but I'm ready to go back now. I've missed you guys. I want to make more videos, and going live is helping me get back into things. So just bear with me, guys. I hope you guys learned something from this video. I knew I was a little bit crazy when I was telling you guys about Cal State Long Beach. So if you can take any value from that, I'm very, very happy. I'm just trying to get back into this YouTube thing now. And I want to make more videos. Let me know down in the comments if there is any other thing you want me to talk about, because the hardest part, guys, is not actually making these videos. It's about what I actually want to make. What is the topic I want to show? And I'm not quite sure sometimes about what I want to show, so I just end up doing anything. So let me know down in the comments what you want me to show. Like this video if you like. Hit that subscribe button if this is the first time you ever see my face. And more videos to come, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. It's not ending. End.